Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. This is part 2 of the power steering install, so stay tuned as we get started.
Alright guys, so now we're going to go ahead and start putting everything together. Real quick though, precursor to all that, we did just spend a decent amount of time kind of going through like all the hardware that they send, because it's not all that clear, I'm going to be honest. They do have like a nice diagram of like the assembly, right? However, some of these nuts didn't quite fit all that great. Like in our ECU, we were threading them on the rear end, how I was going to show us how to do it later on, because we were just kind of figuring out what's going to go where, that we're not messing around with them. And they were kind of hard to thread from this end. So what we did was we threaded them backwards first.
Kind of like a chaser.
Yeah, and then from there, we ran them in, ran them out, and then kind of started them, and then I had to run it back over with a gear wrench in order, or a socket ratchet, in order to like get it to fully go in there. All right, just because the threads from machining are a little dirty. So that's something to be aware of, as well as I'm going to be completely honest, I have no idea what any of these right here do, because they're not in the manual at all. Okay, now notice also, you'll see later on, we're not even going to use these 4 holes according to any of the instructions. All right, so this is kind of the same conclusion that Dad and I came to, is that they're using this for any machine, right? Because I mean, obviously, like, you can probably use this on like the turbos and all that stuff, and if it's using a different mounting bracket, it would make sense just to machine the holes and not have to worry about it later on. That way you can keep it easy for ease of manufacturing, ease of SKUs. So that's just something to be aware of, that you won't use these holes, at least according to the instructions. And I mean, obviously, if we come to it later, we're going to show y'all. But right now, we haven't found anything where we're going to need that. We haven't found where we're going to need this. They shipped us extras of these. We're only actually going to use 3. I mean, I'm okay with always having extras, because just because in case you lose one or one doesn't work out, whatever. But it's just kind of upsetting, I guess, in a sense that it's just not described out in instructions like, hey, you will have extras, or you get shipped all these, you're only going to use these, just kind of stuff like that. Because it did take us, we probably just spent like 30-40 minutes going through everything and kind of figuring that out. All right. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start putting some stuff together. Okay. So first one is, you've got this one. It labels it as Part A. I'm not really going to call it. I mean, yeah, we'll call it Part A. All right. So we got Part A. We got Part B right here. All right. And the way that these are going to mate together is pretty much puzzle piece style, just sliding just like this. All right. So we're going to use those. I'm going to go ahead and start hand tightening these. It's going to go with the bolts. If you're facing this, right, so we're going to keep it facing towards us. If you're going to do that, the threaded piece is going to go away from you, okay? So we'll go away from us. Just hand tighten for now. Not too worried about it, because we might have to move it around. We're going to be working on this for a little bit. All right, so we'll just toss all those in there. All right, and then also real quick, up close on the camera, I'll show you exactly which ones we're using so that you can kind of see. Good?
Awesome.
All right, cool. So you can get a good view, though. If you don't want to sort through everything and you just want to watch this video, then go right ahead.
We've tried to make these videos detailed. Again, I like to look at the video and know how to do it. I'm not a kind of a dwell on the manual too much. Probably many of you aren't either, but we want to show you what to do, how to do, and be effective in it. If you're liking our videos, again, we're new to this. We have no one supporting us financially. No one is sponsoring us. Just like and subscribe. That's all we want. We want you to be part of our Razor Focus family. Many of you have been giving us a lot of advice and ideas, and we thank you for that.
All right, yeah, so I've got all these hand tightened just to make this a little easier, because I do still have enough room to play. But just so that I'm not worrying about any of this back and forth right here, I am going to go ahead and just tighten them down with the sockets, all right? So these are a 13 on either side, okay? So again, if you can't recognize the bolt from what I showed you in the video, again, it's going to be 13 either side, all right? And they're going to line up. So we'll just go ahead and get this. Just to tighten that up, make it slightly easier on us. I'll probably just wind up doing one. I won't bother with all of them. It's just to keep it from rattling around. All right, so now that that's tightened, we're going to see it right there.
Okay, so there's the big old hole where it came out of.
If you come up, you should be able to see the spline. Up,
and you can, yeah, boom, there it is. So there's the spline where we're coming through. Now you come straight back right there.
Yep, now we're going to pass it right
through. If I can come right here and help you line up.
Okay. Alright, so I will say I've already noticed this is a little bit of a tight fit, so it's going to take a little bit of force just to push it through.
Go.
Okay.
Hang
Just
on
to
here.
get wet.
Let's see if we can. Sorry, my finger's in the way. See if I can hold the camera and get my chubby hands in here. Hold on.
I'm just.
I don't know that the white matters, but I'm gonna see if I can. Okay, hold on.
Let me know when you want straight pressure.
Let's try straight pressure.
Anything?
Yeah, you're going. I just can't.
You know, kind of give it a little more tapping down.
Yeah, hang on here. I'm gonna reposition my camera. I'm trying to do two things with one hand. Bear with me.
All right, guys. So we were having some issues getting it on, and we think we pretty much figured it out now. So notice when you have this in, it can't fit all the way in there. So what we did was we are going to take this out, and then we'll try and see if we can put it on. Reason being is there's what is called a spline notch, correct?
Yeah, spline notch.
Yeah, so spline notch. We'll go ahead and show you what that looks like on this one. Now you can see kind of what we're talking about. But basically, because this screw is still in there, they do come installed. Because it was still in there, we weren't able to push it down all the way because it was catching on the splines from the receiving end, okay? So now we'll go ahead and slide it on.
And one other thing I did too, just to make it easy on the spline itself back there, I put on just a little bit of WD-40 water-resistant silicone lubricant, just so we can hopefully get it to slide there. So let's try this again. Again, pardon my video here as we try to get this all fed through.
All right, so I'm through on this end.
Okay, hang on. Let's find that white line again.
Yep, tell me which way to rotate.
Just keep turning. Stop. Turn this inverse a little bit. Kiss up. There we go.
And it went right on, didn't
And
it?
that's it, right? Just the way it's supposed to.
Yep.
So take the bolt off when you do that. So let's go ahead and get that bolt on there. We may have to pull up a little bit when we do it, so we're in the spline notch, because we're sitting directly on top of that right now where we were not before.
All right, so real quick, I just want to kind of show you guys what the spline nut, or the spline split is kind of doing, right? So notice how with this, just goes on nice and easy, right? Well, if this nut was in here, it wouldn't be able to do that because that nut is supposed to sit right here to help prevent this from backing in and backing out, okay? So that's why you would need to do this. Now, again, if it's pushed fully down, then this one is good. However, the stock one in the RZR versus the aftermarket Super ATV one, what we basically had to do is kind of like back it out. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about pulling back, backing out a little bit, so that way this hole can line up appropriately with this piece so that the nut can sit right there.
Sounds good. Okay, so let's see if we can get this here. This is not a light unit.
And it's also not in the most advantageous area to be able to film and get your hands in there.
Yep, so bear with us here. See if you can
Get this
over the pedal.
Hold on, I gotta get this behind the thing right here. Behind the dash. Boom, there we go. Okay, it's kind of lined up on the pedal. Should be kind of lined up with the spline.
Okay, hold on.
I'm gonna reach behind you real quick.
You're so close on the spline. Of course, I probably need to kick over.
Which way?
You know what? Let's loosen these back sides again.
Yeah.
So we can turn the spline.
You need a little more.
Little turn.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, because you don't have it. This, I will say, is probably the second hardest thing that we've done so far. They're just started. They're not.
Yep, just so it's not, we don't have to worry about that thing falling on us.
Push like down there. Yep. Kind of set it
We're
down.
not fighting that, and we can get our body positioned here to get this spline here. Okay, so now what we got to do here, let's get back to where we are.
Let's see if we can kind of set this. Yeah.
Oh, get it.
You might be able to just set it in a little bit, you think, or not?
Yeah, stay right there.
Okay. Now just tell me if you want this up or down.
Hold on, I'm fighting the brake pedal bracket.
Okay.
Okay, what I want you to do now is twist that
Motor.
body toward you.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, so now,
We seated?
now turn that thing.
Which way?
Turn the nut to tighten.
Okay. I do have it started.
Okay, good. That's all we need to do.
If you can get me a gear wrench.
Yep. What size is that?
13.
13 gear wrench.
I can actually get this really on there. Now, I will say right now I'm threading it with both fingers, okay? So he's going to give me a gear wrench that I can actually tighten this because there is space in there now, but definitely starting that thread was a pain. So having somebody on the other side be able to turn the wheel to the right in this instance did help because it opened up a little bit and it twisted the splines for us. Okay, so let's see if I can figure out how to...
There we go.
Okay, are you tighten? Yeah, you are.
And here is where the right tools make a difference, because this thing takes hardly no movement to set that ratchet.
Yeah.
And you can see we got like no play. There we go, making progress. Woohoo!
Yeah, and then we again just making sure we get that crush washer. Good old grunt test.
Ugga duggas. One ugga dugga. Two ugga dugga. There we go. Okay. So now let's go ahead and tighten this, Nathan.
That's in there. Yeah, we'll tighten up this bracket right here.
Yep, and then we'll tighten the motor where.
That way it's exactly where we need it.
Sounds
because
good.
I think if we tighten it before we get this top spline up here on, it might be a pain. So what we'll do is we'll get that one in, and provided nothing else is in our way, and then we'll tighten this at the end.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're just going to go ahead, tighten these in. All right, so we'll just do that, then we'll go back over them. Again, having this deep socket is helping out right now. There it is. There, okay. We do still have this loose at this moment.
Okay, I'm going to go up here to the motor here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep in mind where we're going to put the ECU at.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to get this as high as we can.
Mm-hmm. And then now I can go and tighten it
now
again.
you can tighten it.
So this, those screws on the back, those are a 14, all right?
But you can definitely see why you want it loose, just to get that spline lined up.
Mm-hmm. So let's see if we can reach these in here. I believe this is the one I already did, but we'll just... Yep, so that one's good.
Yeah, that one near the brake pedal is kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, we got the motor installed. And you can see it kind of takes two people, definitely. We got the motor tucked in there, kind of pointing up at that direction, so it's out of the way. So far, again, pretty upfront, plain, simple install. This has probably been the hardest part so far. Takes two people, hands down.
All right, guys. So now that we've got the motor in and everything's mounted up nice and tight, there's no more play in it. We've tightened up all of our shaft nuts and all that stuff. We've tightened up the pedals, or the 4 pedal bolts. Excuse me. Now we're going to go ahead and get our upper shaft assembly, as well as our spacers, the small one and the large one. We're going to get our tilt column assembly. We're going to get our tilt column assembly, little securing nut and bolt, and then we're also going to make sure that we have removed this nut from the spline so that it can actually go into the spline on the power steering unit. Now, before we start installing everything, though, we are going to want to make sure that we're hitting it with some WD-40, some silicone lube, just to make sure everything slides together nicely, and then there's no hot spots that are being kind of created. That way, during the wear-in process, it doesn't create any burrs or anything like that on our material. All right. So we'll just go ahead and get this going. I'm going to spray it into this so I don't get my pants all dirty before my wife comes back. All right, so we're just going to hit up along this. And the reason I'm hitting up this shaft right here is because this is where our steering tilt column assembly is going to be sliding across. Our spacers are going to be in there. So it's just a matter of making the installation easy and slick. Okay? So we got that good to go. All right, so yeah, now that I got everything that I need, we're going to go ahead and get this going. All right, so first thing, we're just going to go ahead and set this spline on there. With this one, I would recommend getting it set kind of how it's going to be easy for you to be able to install everything onto it. And by install, I mean this nut right here that we're not having to really struggle against it. All right, so let's mess around with a little bit of, oh, did I go too far? No, we're still good. Oh, I was threading from the wrong side. So let's do it this way now. Now it's going to be on the bottom, which will actually even be easier. Can tighten this up real quick. Okay, Let's go ahead and give that a good. Oh, that's loosening. There we go.
And go ahead and get that other one too.
Make sure that crush washer's good. I'm going to wait till the steering piece is in because we might need some back and forth.
Sounds
so
good.
I'm going to wait on that one. Now that everything's nice and lubed, we're going to take our steering tilt column assembly.
And if you hear my nose running, we'll explain what just happened during this little blurb here on another video. It's a pretty exciting thing for our family.
All right, so just sliding this around. This part is a little hard. Don't be afraid to use like your knees and stuff to hold it. So we're just gonna get that up. Oh, well, good thing that was hard. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Don't forget, putting the skinny spacer back on here, all right?
The small spacer first.
Good thing that was hard, because then we would have got it on there and then been like, ah, shoot. Okay, looking through here. Hold on, no, I need to look through this. Yeah, that's fine.
You're just hitting your plastic.
Yep, there we go. That's nice and lined up. Now we'll go ahead and just add our big spacer real quick. All right, and then now from here, we're just putting it right back in, all right? So it's going in between these two rails that we had it in earlier. In between those, guiding it up.
I'm just kind of using my hand here
and
for pressure.
Now it's going to rest on that lever. And it's in there, okay? So the thing that's going to be keeping it in is going to be the tilt assembly right here. So you can kind of push that back up on this bottom piece right here.
So let's get the long bolts in.
Next thing, we're going to put these in.
I'm going to come around here to make it easier to see. And you can see so far, again, this is pretty straightforward install.
And there it is. Boom, nice and easy. We'll go ahead and just lock that one in real quick. We'll just thread
Well, at least keep it from falling out.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, shoot. Watch wasn't wanting to turn it off. I was pushing up against it. All right, so that's threaded. And now we're going to go ahead and get this next one in. All right. All right, so looking down in here where this nut or this bolt is coming back, right? If you look, there's this brace, and that's the actual like frame of the vehicle, okay? Now this frame of the vehicle, lifting the bolt head of it over that is going to make it easy to go in, okay? I couldn't really show that on the rear one, but if you come in from under it, you're not going to be able to lift up because it's blocking. So make sure that when you come in, you basically put the bolt head this way, and then you bring it towards the piece that you need to go. And that's especially going to be important on that rear one. I couldn't show that, but I wanted to make sure I did on this one because I noticed that it's
start high
in there.
And then you can see here.
And there we go. Now we can just kind of get those. We'll just leave those hand tight for the time being. And then we'll get our tilt assembly. We'll go ahead and get this one in there, the tilt assembly. And then from there, we're going to go through and kind of tighten up everything. That way it's all good.
Sounds good.
All right, so I know I said that we were going to leave those loose and then go ahead and install that tilt one. But as I was doing it, I wasn't able to get the hole to line up quite easily because there was too many moving points. So I'm just going to go ahead and tighten up these ones real quick. Again, just putting my 15 ratchet on one side, 15 socket on the other side. Nice and tight. Let's really get that one in there. Make sure it's good. There we go. Yeah, so that one's good. Now we'll get this one. And again, if you really want to make this easy, you could just take this black piece of dash off, because like right now, it would be a little easier if we didn't have it. It is still doable, obviously, because we've had it off the whole time.
But you'd have to
had it on the whole time. But if you wanted to really like just knock it out real quick, you could probably take it off.
But you'd have to take all your switches off, all your...
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, yeah. All right, so that's on there nice and tight. And now we can go ahead and get our tilt assembly in. All right, so now we'll go ahead and see if we can get these lined up. There we go. All right, cool. We got enough thread through, so we can go ahead and reach behind, get this. And let's see.
And again, that was a 10mm nut and a 4 Allen?
4 Allen. So we'll get that. It's got a nylon lock, so I can only go so far. Just want to reach behind you real quick, Dad. Good. All right, so I've got this Allen. I'm not going to tighten it off this. I'm just keeping that in there because I don't want to bother getting another Allen, if I'm being honest. All right, so that's in there, and now I've got my gear wrench. That's what I'm going to be tightening with.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with those ratchets. I think they're set to like at 42 to 52 pounds. So this small stuff, you can really break it.
Yeah, and that's obviously not something we want to have happen. Okay, good. All right.
Oh man, we're doing good.
All right, so now that we've got all the tilt steering stuff and the steering column and whatnot basically in there and retightened down, before doing the steering wheel and the gauges, I wanted to go ahead and put the ECU in because that'll be the last thing we actually have to do for the whole power steering piece outside of wiring, okay? So this bar right here, running up and down, is going to be where we're going to attach it, all right? And I basically pre-staged this to make it slightly easier by hand threading one of these, and then that way I can set this in there and then run it around and then tighten up the other one, okay? So that's what we're going to do. Boom, so we've got this lip down here, following that. I'm going to try and get it as high up into that lip as I can. And now I'm going to have you hand me that other screw or other bolt. So we'll hand do this one as well. I think it might actually be easier for me to do this from inside the cab, but we'll see what we can do here. So I'm going to slide it down just so I can get this threaded.
All right, here's that bolt. Now, I want to show you this bolt.
Yeah.
We decided to go with those extra bolts that we didn't know what they're for. This is a little longer. We're not using them, so we're going to use them on this one. That little bit of length helps quite a bit. And if you want to know why I was sniffling my nose, as I was saying in the back there is my beautiful Jody and my beautiful Sarah and my beautiful Eulaine. Sarah has been proposed to, and she said yes. And then today she said yes to the dress. So, woo-woo! Stay tuned. We'll be showing you some exciting things in our family. But so, for all you dads out there, you can appreciate why I was crying as they were sending me pictures of my baby girl in a dress. But I'm not going to show you that yet. You got to wait till the wedding for that. So Nathan's just down here tightening this ECU. Again, with those longer brackets there.
Longer bolts.
Bolts, yes. Longer bolts. Okay, so now we're looking at the wiring harness. And again, it looks pretty straightforward. There are a couple of questions we have. Obviously, these things are going to connect to the CPU that we just installed, or the ECU, sorry. And this is going to go to the bus bar. And it's instructions are very clear where that goes. And there is a power switch. It says the white one is a switch wire. We don't know what the blue one's for. It does not say anything in the instructions what the blue one is for. So we're going to start with what we know, and what we know is hot, negative, and switched. Now, this one comes bladed, but they say to use Scotch locks into the factory harness. I don't want to mess with the factory harness. I like keeping my factory harness clean. So what we have here is the pulse bar connection. And if you remember on the winch video, the red is hot, black is ground, blue is switched. So we're not going to disconnect any of this yet. We may end up only using the switched, but we may also use everything, the black and the hot, as they are the same, pretty much the same gauge. But we're going to leave those on there for now and kind of set this up in the test mode to make sure we got all our wiring connected. I may have to pull out my power probe and figure out what this is, if anything. So, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and take off the blade connection. We're going to cut that. And we're going to splice that one as well as the blue. And we're going to go ahead and prep these. And I like to use the smallest connection that will work. Now the pulse bar connection is a little heavier gauge wire. And we'll put all those links in there. We've used these connections quite a bit on all our other stuff. So that looks like that's going to fit there. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of heat shrink over this, just because we might get lucky and everything be right here. And that way we don't have to go back afterwards and say, oh, I should have put some heat shrink on it. So with this one, we know we're going to leave this switched like it is. So I'm just going to go and run that back there. And I love these little crimp tools. Klein makes them. Harbor Freight makes them. It doesn't let you over crimp. Crimps it just right. So now we're going to get the white one that they say is switched. And again, on this connector, it's the blue is switched on the pulse bar. Now you may have different pulse connections, so make sure you know which one is requiring the switch. Technically, that is switch wire, and these now are hot wires. They say go directly to the bus connection, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do what they say. We're just going to put this in test mode. So let's move on over to the RZR.
All right, so real quick, we're going to go ahead and attach all of the wires to our ECU. One thing we did do was we did disconnect this and then redo that one side crimp like he already had shown. Reason being is we're going to have to run this harness through our firewall into the bus bar, so it would have been a little difficult to have done that in the beginning, so we're going to do that at the end. So now you guys can check this out. All right, so the first one is going to be our A, which is our motor right here, and it's going to plug right in to the ECU like this.
So that's off the motor. That's not off the harness.
Correct. There's a click noise, so we're good. Next one is going to be this one right here, which is calling it, let me see, C, non-contact torque sensor. All right, that's what this one's called. And it plugs in right here.
And these are all keyed, so you can't mess up.
Exactly. They're all different sizes. There you go. Nice click. Okay. Now we're going to move into B, main power control ground. That's this one right here. Okay. So we'll plug this one up. Nice click. Good. All right. And then the last one, which is D. Okay. Key on power, speed, sensor wire, and LED. That's what they call this one.
And maybe that's what that blue wire is, speed sensor wire. We don't know yet.
There is a blue wire coming out right here. Who knows? And this is on the main harness. So blue wire right there. I don't know. We're going to figure that out though. So now what we'll do is we're going to go to the other end. Just kind of tossing this over into the dash cab area.
Now one thing I will say.
White wire is going to have to come with us.
Now one thing I will say, Nate, is like my my RZR, which does have power steering, is not speed rated. So in other words, the steering is the same whether you're going 10 or whether you're going 50. Now on the other units like a XP1000, I know the speed is determined, it slows down as you speed up. Where that could be what that blue wire is, and because it's not affected on this machine, it wouldn't be on the instructions. Because the instructions are specific.
Could be, yeah.
So that's probably what it is, but we're going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, so we're going to leave this wire running through into the actual cabin. So it's not going to run through the firewall, okay? It may wind up getting in there, but that's just something to be aware of. I'm not really worried about that one. The ones I'm worried about getting into the firewall hole are the red, black, and white.
Awesome. And again, we're kind of just, everything's kind of a mess right now, but that's okay. And he's just feeding through.
If you haven't ever seen a firewall hole, it is right here. It has some, kind of looks like a little donut in a sense, right? Yep, right where his finger is. That's where we're going to be pushing these through, okay? So, nice and neat. Ideally not getting them hung up on anything else. I'm just going to...
And there's plenty of wire if you
all of these through. And there's also plenty of room. So I've got 4 things already coming through this hole, and it was not hard to put all that in there. So here they are, already out. Now we're just going to get us some slack to make it easier to work with, because we can always pull it back out into this area where we're going to fix them. As you can see, this is where I put like my LED lights that I have. So they'll be nice and tucked up. We'll probably do it over on this side for the extra bit of the harness. But we're going to make sure we pull enough slack out. This should probably be good to be able to work around. And now Dad will go ahead and splice this back in, and we'll go ahead and start attaching. All right, so first things first, I'm going to start removing our ground and our positive over here, because that's where it's going to get attached into. So there's the ground. Again, that's a 10 mil, like most of the small stuff. Oh, that one's out. Good. There we go, that one's out. They're the same exact nut, so don't worry about if you did get them mixed up, just in case. All right, so we'll go ahead and attach our ground.
Yeah, feeding it from the bottom, keeping it neat.
We'll just hit this once or twice. There we go. Make sure we don't get that too tight. Same thing here. We'll run it as down as we can. We do already have something else on there, so we'll run it about like that.
And again, just so you know, this is the switch power line. So they said just to connect to that. We didn't want to mess with the factory wiring.
There we go. All right, but yeah, like you were saying with the switch wiring, so that's why we ran it right here, because this is kind of going to be a temporary thing. Obviously, once we get this dialed in, we'll run our heat shrink over, we'll do that up, we'll take out the extra stuff that we don't need, and then we'll make everything nice and pretty. But we're just kind of testing it right now, so that's what we're doing. Oops, sorry. So pulling that out of the bus bar, and just tossing our new one right in.
And we want to make sure that hot is not touching anything.
Yeah, I mean, look, we didn't strip them or anything, so that's good. All right, so now that we had all that stuff hooked up, we're going to, again, it's still in like a test configuration, right? So we want to toss the steering wheel on. So we didn't tighten anything down. We just put it back on and tighten the nut. However, upon initially trying it, we weren't able to do it with the spacer on there. So we're like, oh, what the heck? So if you come around here, Dad, you can see right down in here on the splines. Remember, this is the part that we didn't tighten earlier so that we could pull it. All right, so right now you're not going to be able to, but there you go. Yeah, you can kind of see it move when you pull on the steering wheel. Right, so what we had to do is basically pull it out like this so that we could then push our steering wheel on so that we could tighten these threads that are right here, okay? Once we actually have it fully tightened up and everything, we'll go through and we'll tighten that one as well, all right? All right, so now we're just going to plug our gauge in because we don't want to have an issue with throwing a code or something like that, or it saying there's an error. So we're just going to plug this in. It's not very tight. Well, I guess we'll see when we turn the ignition on, if the gauge turns on.
All right, turn the ignition on.
Okay, gauge is on, so it's definitely plugged in. So that's something to just be aware of whenever you do replug it in. It doesn't go in there very much, right? It did reset our gauge because we unplugged it, so just make sure you know that. Oh, wow. That is...
It's working?
It's definitely working.
That is easy.
Let me just do a comparison because I know what the ultimate works. Well, I think that's a little easier than mine. You can feel it engaged as you start. So as you start turning, it's like starts.
That noise didn't have anything to do with the start. Just so you know, that was in the rear end.
That's the fuel pump.
Yeah, don't. Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely as you start to turn it, the motor starts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one finger. Wow.
And I mean, also, like, something to be aware of, too, is, like, we haven't tightened up the steering wheel, so there's still going to be some slack in that. We haven't tightened up down there, so there might still be some slack in that. And I'm on bigger tires than he is, too. So, I mean, that's another thing to just take into account. So it definitely does, initial impression, one, it works. So that's good. Two, it seems like it works pretty well. So we'll go ahead and get everything tightened up, and we'll try it again.
Cool, let's get it buttoned.
All right, so real quick, we're just going to start tightening everything up now that we know everything looks good. So we're just going to pull our steering wheel back out. That way we can work around everything. So I'll set that over here. We're going to go ahead and grab our gauge again, and we'll actually install it this time. Let me get the screws for that. Got those right here. We'll start getting this back in. All right, so slide this in. Go. This one likes to be difficult down in here. There we go, got that clip. Okay, there's just a clip right in here. It makes it a little bit of a pain sometimes. All right, everything looks lined up, good. I guess we'll start in the top, see if we can get this figured out. Looks like it might be sitting a little low. There we go. I think that was a T30.
So get those three there tightened up.
Almost done with this last one. All right, so those are all good to go. Now we are going to go ahead and just plug our harness back in to our gauge pod. And again, before we put the dash on, I am going to test to make sure that I connect it all the way, because like I said, this thing does sit in there a little odd, because it doesn't feel like it's in. Like, that's it. It's clicked in, but it's still very loose. So I'm just going to check my ignition switch real quick when I find out where I set my key. There it is.
Yes, make sure everything connected up right.
Yep, so we're all good. Okay. Just want to make sure that my gauge has power before we go and we seal it, and then I can't get to it and we got to start all over. Alrighty.
Okay, so one of the things we have to do too now is we have that set for keyed switch. We need to go and take off these 2 wires here because we don't want these dangling negative hot wires. And so let's go ahead and unplug that.
Yeah, and we got to hit the...
And we got to heat shrink this real quick.
Yep, and then we'll tidy everything up, and then we'll really close it up.
Hallelujah. Let's get the heat gun ready. So to take these extra wires out, you can just rip them out if you wanted to, but you risk damaging it. So what we're going to do is take off this little shield. And it takes a little bit of doing there. And this just slides right out. And then these wires now are captured. And I probably should use a pick. If you look here, again, that's the one we're taking out. Just a little pick. Just kind of shove it in.
With your hand.
Yeah, make sure your hand's not in the way. And then pull it. Pops right out. It's kind of just held, captured in there with a little pin. And then put this back on so you don't lose the one you need. Make sure you put it on the right way.
I believe it goes the other way. You had it right.
And that's it. So now it's retained and captured again. So we'll plug that back in.
Heat shrink.
Oh, yes, heat shrink. Kind of get there in the middle. Now, I did order some really cool clips. They didn't come in time. I have the built-on heat shrink on the crimp. So maybe next time. And you got to be careful with heat shrink. I have messed it up.
Yeah, make sure you do it. Try and do even around. Don't get one side more than the other in the beginning, just because then you might run into an issue.
There we go.
Looks pretty good.
Don't want to melt it.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So now we're going to go ahead and just position this one in. And then Nathan's going to start zip tying and cleaning up the wires so he can pull back any extra that he wants to pull back.
All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and start pulling all that slack we were talking about that we gave ourselves to work with. Now we're going to just go ahead and pull it back out carefully, obviously, in order to make everything nice and tidy. Okay. The reason I like pulling out the slack is there's no real point in having extra wires up in this area when we can neatly contain them in this area. Okay. So go ahead and just trace that back.
And we are going to reach out to Super ATV and find out what that blue wire is for.
Yeah, because right now it's not for anything.
And again, it's not nowhere listed in our instructions.
So we got this. Keep this. Again, you don't want to crimp them or anything. You don't want to pinch them. Just nice and easy. Got that one. We can probably toss this back up in here. That'll be... So what I'm going to do is I've got all this right now, but I'm going to leave that. Because I like working from this area. Because what I can do is I'm going to pull everything over to this. So I'm going to start with this stuff right here and catch our loose ends up front.
Yeah, they give you plenty of wiring harness.
Now I do know. Okay, so now one thing to be aware of with this is we do have this LED, okay? So this is our like diagnostic. So if you do run into an issue in the future, make sure that you're not tucking this somewhere that it's entirely impossible to see. So if you look down, albeit you won't be able to see it from the top, but if I do have issues, I can just look under the center console in the middle and I'll be able to see my indicator light. But it keeps it out of the way because it's not really something I need to check every single time. So now that first zip tie is done. Now we will neatly contain all of these against this bar. So we'll start by just again working our way back. So we'll probably want it right about there. So let's see here. We'll set that there.
And Nathan doesn't have the ride command. Makes it really easy if you're having to do switches.
Yeah, very.
Just take this off when you do the switches. Now, Miss Jody and I love our ride command. But it takes up all this area here.
So now we can set these, and I'm just going to carefully just go back and forth, applying some pressure. Not really pushing down too much, just kind of containing.
Might need some bigger zip ties.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. And I can tuck this right up under there. And now we've got our random wire.
Which we're going to leave up for the top, just in case later on we need to decide, hey, That is for something. We believe it's for the speed sensor, which this does not have.
Okay, now we got our zip ties. I'm just going to go ahead and start by chaining 2 of these together. Reaching under. I got that started. Okay, so now before I finish, really, I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So I do have these kind of loose over here. So what I'll probably wind up doing is just running a zip tie right there. That way they're not flopping around. So let me just tighten that one up. Good. Now I do have this area right here where there's some holes. So I'm just gonna route a zip tie through here.
We love using zip ties, as you know.
Yep, there we go. This one is going to be a little bit tighter, but I can definitely do it with one.
That looks really good, Nate.
Yeah, I think that's going to work out nice. I will take some tape just because it is on the harness. I'm going to take some tape just to cover this. I don't want to leave it exposed.
And you kind of see where everything's at there. He's going to clean up those little ends there. Oh, we can't remember to put that.
Yeah, that last torque in.
Yeah.
Yep. So real quick, I'm going to cap it like that. It doesn't need to be nothing pretty. And then now, just going to grab a couple inches more, and we'll run it around it just to make sure that doesn't really go anywhere. I don't think it will be an issue with it being nice and tucked in, but just to alleviate any possibility, it's worth doing.
Yes, we don't know, again, we still don't know exactly what that wire is, and
now we can just...
We don't want it to hit any kind of metal if that was...
Tuck it right back in.
Some sort of power.
And tighten these down, and they're definitely not going anywhere now. Now that looks pretty clean, so I'm just going to go through.
So
there we go.
Where was that LED at, Nate?
So right now our LED is pointing straight down.
Oh, right here.
Right here on
so
this.
Just out of curiosity, I think they say when it turns on, it does do a...
Yeah, it's supposed to, let's see, it says, when activated, LED diagnostic light will flash once for about 1 second before turning off, indicating proper function.
So let's turn it on and see what it does.
Yeah.
Then we'll know if it's wired properly.
Or, if, I don't really know. It says when activated, so I don't know what that means.
Turn to key. 1. Yeah, turns on for a second.
Yeah.
Means it's
flash once for about 1 second before turning off, indicating proper function.
So I'll turn it off, see if it does anything. Nope,
No.
just so when it turns on. So I'm going to just kind of point that down, though, just so you can kind of see from the bottom.
Yeah, you might see a little bit of flash of red. We'll see.
I guess what we could have done is drill a hole through the glove box.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about seeing it. I think it'll be pretty obvious when the power steering isn't working.
I think you're right.
So real quick, we're just going to go through and we're going to go ahead and re-put our dash on. So I'm grabbing the torque that I used earlier for this area. Did shift a little bit, so let's see here.
There you go. You're good right there.
Oh, you got it there?
Yep. Just a little.
All right.
Little
A little too much.
Now again, I will tell you, when reassembling, do not use a power ratchet. Now this one's directed at metal, so probably not a big deal. But as you look around, there's a lot of these metal clips. These right here. Miss Jody and I, when we did our winch install, as you recall, we broke a couple of those. Had to go to AutoZone and pick some up. At least you can get them easily available. But it could have been preventable had I done it by hand.
All right, now that one's on, we'll go ahead and get our dash, and we'll pop that back on.
Man, Nathan, I'm pretty proud of us.
Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't that bad. I will say, having 2 people to do this, if you ask me, is going to be 100% necessary. I wouldn't recommend doing this alone, just because it's going to be a little bit more challenging. If you have more experience than us and you think you can knock it out, by all means. I just think it's nice because the extra hands are going to be helpful.
And one thing I will say we've learned by taking ours off a billion times, start from up here by angling this up, because there's 2 clips under here, and those are the most difficult clips to get. So start from the front, then work your way back,
We'll start this
Yes.
one by hand.
Because we've had the privilege of taking ours apart several times, and we've learned the little quirks to try to save you some grief. Appreciate all the good comments and compliments you guys are joining us on our adventure. We're having a great time. It's cold outside, so it's a perfect time to do these little things that we wanted to do. And it's fun to work on your machine, especially fun to work with your family. It's a blessing to work with my son here today.
Go ahead and thread that one over there real
Yep.
quick. Yeah. Just to at least get it started.
Yep.
And we'll go through these with the socket. We'll be good to go.
Yeah, really. How long do you think it took us with all our delays?
I mean, with everything, which means including shooting this video, right? Like, we started this at 9 o'clock. Right now, it's 1:30.
Yeah, so...
And, I mean, 9 o'clock is also probably being real generous. We probably honestly started closer to, like, 9:30 to 10.
Had to get our coffee.
Yeah, I mean, including...
And also I had to stop every now and then because I do this on my iPhone.
Yeah.
Take some 5-10 minute charge breaks to let this thing charge a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, we definitely weren't really in a rush. We're just kind of knocking it out at an easy pace, and you did hear that snap.
But you didn't break it.
But thank God it has not come down. So
you just jumped the
we
thread.
won't tighten that none, even though I really wasn't going after it. So
You don't have to go very tight on these at all
yeah.
to break them. So you just jumped the thread. That's good.
Leave that one there. Knock out this one.
Yeah, we're good. Because this will...
Well, that'll be tucked in by that glove box little compartment.
Man, this is looking good. I'm excited.
Toss this in.
Yeah, you have the little brackets on the bottom. You got to tie in first.
No, they just sit.
There
you
you
don't
go.
have to do nothing.
Put the
Boom.
quick clips on.
Okay.
Again, you have your glove box.
Let's go ahead and put our hood on.
Man, we're trucking now.
Oh, shoot.
Oh yeah, better take the little magnet thing off. I love these things again. Harbor Freight. They used to give them away, but they're still worth the $2.99 you get them for now.
And there we go. All right, now before moving on any further to putting on the windshield and saying we're done, if you notice, I still have no way to actually drive this thing. So we gotta still put our steering wheel on. We left it off for the install, that way we didn't have to really work around it. So what we still have to do, this is how I was talking about earlier, how you have this play right here, right? So what we're gonna have to do is we'll pull it out, we'll tighten this up a little bit. Again, that's our 13, and then we'll get our steering wheel set. We'll set up, make sure that we're still on the straight, we're not straight like this on our steering wheel. And then after that, we'll toss the windshield on, tighten up my roof, we'll be done.
Sweet. Let's grab the steering wheel, Nate. Here you go.
And then this is a 20-some. It should still be attached to the...
Yeah, this is going to be attached to the impact gun. And you can see we got a lot of tools kind of scattered about. You'd think there'd be some limited sizing here, but I think we had to try just about every, from 10 to 15 to 22.
So notice how right here, this is how I was talking about, right? So this is how it's naturally sitting because we haven't tightened this. Now I can get my steering wheel on, but notice it's not hooked up to anything. So I can just twist it. So then I just come down here and I just push along this rod right here so it gives me some slack in there. And then when I do that, I can fully seat my steering wheel, okay? Now, while I'm still pushing out all the way, I'm just gonna start this thread right here in my steering wheel. And then now I've still got a little bit of play. So I'm going to thread this steering wheel that it's nice and tight, and it'll kind of pull out as far as it needs, okay? And then basically where it winds up sitting, then we can just tighten it up so that there's no play forward and back.
So, but before you get going on the impact wrench, take a look, Nathan, in the front and tell me if you think that's where your wheels are straight. Because you don't want to be driving like this.
I'm going to say it's not.
So here, you tell me where you want it.
Bring it that way just a hair.
Which way?
Stop right there. Yeah. So we could probably move it over a spline or two.
Yeah, you can see the steering wheel there?
Yeah.
That's why you want to check that before you torque that thing down. We'll try to get it as close as we can.
How's that right there?
See, that looks pretty good.
Okay.
It almost looks like the wheels toe out, but
that could be the case because it might do it in order to make it more responsive to steering because it is a toe out. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and pull this out slightly. Get that
All
in
right,
there.
get that.
It's already
tightened up
hand
now.
tight.
Hold the steering wheel as you do it.
Yep. Definitely on there further, I feel like, when we did it. So let's see. We do still have some playback there, obviously, but that doesn't mean that's not necessarily a bad thing.
That's really
it's
it.
not really going, and it's not stopped because it could easily just push this thing way further in if it needed it. But the steering wheel is still sliding up and down the spline.
Well, it's going to slide up and down. You're not sliding up here. You're sliding the whole mechanism, aren't you?
Oh yeah, because when you hold it in the back. Okay, cool.
So, but hang on. Let's look at our spacing on my unit here and see if we can see if there's a standoff. No.
Oh yeah, you can just pull that.
You're completely on it.
Okay.
We'll go all the way to the shaft.
Yeah.
And then tighten up the lower shaft. Okay, so now that he's pressing down on the steering wheel to keep it tight against the shaft, tighten up the bottom there.
Again, this is our 13.
And that's the final shaft of the steering wheel. There we go.
That's got some tightness. Has a little bit of play still, so let's tighten this just a hair more. Okay, that's good. We'll hit it one more time with this. Not going too crazy, just... Okay, looks like that's about it.
There you go.
That's pretty good.
Put the cap on it. Where's the... Here you go. Put the center cap on. Woo-hoo! All we need now is a windshield.
Yeah.
And the jack.
Windshield, jack, and finish up the roof.
Sweet. All right, Nate's putting on his windshield.
So again, because of the way I have my lights, you do have to come in from the rear end, drop it down, and then lift up this part. Here we go.
Stay out of your way here. And this is a Super ATV windshield.
Yep. Good, you're clear over there. Now these, I will say, are a pain to do because of the way I have it done. Because I did do the seal all the way instead of cutting because I wanted it to get a tighter seal.
Well, I'm going to let you do that.
Yeah, because it's going to be hard to do one-handed, I'm going to be honest.
And you can see while he's working on that, I'll show you the foam pad he was referring to. Has it all the way around. It's a little weather stripping here.
Yeah, prevents vibrating. Vibrating, scuffing, stuff like that.
Okay, let's see if the power steering is better than it was. Laney is going to test it, so go ahead and just turn the key to accessory mode.
One more. Boom.
So everything's cycling up.
Wow.
Very smooth.
Super easy, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll have to take it out for a test drive here in a little bit.
Yes. Let's go zoom, zoom.
All right, guys. So now that we've got all this stuff installed and the girls are back from shopping, we hope you enjoyed this video. Again, this has been an install for the 2021 Plus RZR Trail S 900.
We're so glad that you're here. Make sure you like and subscribe. I pray that you have an amazing, blessed every day.
And stay razor focused.